Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson. Today we're listening to Killer Cases. This is The Last Meal.
The food was on the stove, her homemade bolognese sauce. She was about to toss the salad and she had just taken some garlic bread out of the oven. They were going to eat lunch together that day, but never did.
Kelly Merritt was found stabbed to death on Friday in her Stone Mountain home.
The crime scene picture was gruesome. They discovered Miss Shirley lying on the floor near the basement. She was stabbed numerous times, fraudulently beaten in the head with a 35-pound dumbbell.
It's something that'll haunt me for the rest of my life.
My mother was crying. He told her to shut the F up and pushed her down the stairs. The worst sound I've ever heard in my life.
We didn't know if he was in Costa Rica or if he was hiding in the bushes down the street behind the gas station.
We really had no idea where he went. So we thought he might have went up north and then doubled back and went south. If he could do that to my mother, what would he do to me?
After 8 months, you start to wonder if we're ever going to find him. And
Where the hell is this guy?
This is what he's going to tell you. Situation.
And I grabbed the gun.
That's not the first place to put a body.
No, sir.
The only thing they could do was kill him.
You want to say anything? We, the jury, decline the defendant.
My name is Rich Merritt. I'm the managing partner of the law office of Richard B. Merritt. Since I'm the only lawyer here in little downtown Smyrna, obviously my practice is very grassroots and community-based.
Mr. Merritt was an esteemed member of the community, and he had previously worked as a prosecutor in Fulton County.
Seemed to be a good lawyer that connected well with folks in the courthouse and his clients.
Mr. Merritt was married. He had 2 beautiful children. He was gainfully employed. They were all, going to prominent schools.
They lived in an expensive house. They seemed to be able to do whatever they wanted to do, whenever they wanted to do it.
According to his wife, he was taking them on lavish vacations. He came home with a Porsche one day out of the blue.
They definitely liked to live the high life. They were jet setters.
Around 2015, people started coming forward and alleging that he had been stealing money from them.
What I came to learn is he was running, for lack of a better term, a Ponzi scheme for many months and perhaps many years, where he was settling personal injury cases, civil cases, on his client's behalf without their knowledge, without their consent, and forging their signatures to the tune of almost $500,000.
He got behind in his mortgage, he got behind in his rent, in his practice, he got behind in payroll, and he had to steal to fix that hole, and then, you know how that goes, it just mushrooms.
The victims were angry. One woman had a botched medical procedure, and Rich went and settled it for pennies on the dollar behind her back. Her husband, in particular, seemed very angry.
At one point, someone created a series of cartoon-like flyers about Merritt and the court system.
These cartoons had been placed in Rich's mother's mailbox, his ex-wife Janine's mailbox. It was alarming because it seemed like somebody was trying to influence the process. And someone was trying to intimidate or threaten. Everyone hated him. Everyone thought he was just the scum of the earth. And, people like that, in situations like that, don't have a lot of friends and a lot of advocates.
Merritt moved in with his mother, Shirley Merritt, after his wife filed for divorce.
She seemed to see something there that the rest of us didn't see. She was really the only one in his corner and stood by him and let him stay with her. There were lots of secrets between my mother and my brother. having to do with money and having to do with kind of what was going on in his life. I think she was very, very hurt and disappointed by it.
She got a second mortgage on her house and posted the bond for him, and she paid his attorney's fees as well.
Her entire retirement was spent down, and she was virtually bankrupt at the time.
This is the sentencing hearing for Mr. Richard Merritt.
Shirley Merritt went to court with her son when he agreed to plead guilty and be sentenced to prison for defrauding his clients.
Look at all of us. He did it repeatedly. He knew what all of our situation was. He knew that there were children that needed this money. He knew that there were disabled people that he was hurting. He didn't care, and he's not going to care. When you put him back out on the street, he's just going to do it again. He's a con man, and that's what he does.
I would give anything in the world to make every one of you whole and for this never to have happened. I've been sitting here all day disgusted with myself. It's very difficult to even look you good people in the eyes when you're up here.
I thought 2 years was an appropriate sentence to ask for because restitution obviously was a goal of everyone. Of course, the judge didn't agree with me.
What you did was reprehensible, it's deplorable, it's despicable.
He was sentenced to 30 years to serve 15 years.
It was a tough day for him, and he seemed to be preoccupied with having time to turn himself in.
I respectfully ask that I be allowed to report on February 1st. I will do so without issue.
Merritt was given 2 weeks before surrendering at the Cobb County Jail.
He had been on an ankle monitor for a year, had GPS tracking, and he had had no violations of his bond. You've got all indications that he's going to continue to play by the rules when it's time for him to go turn himself into the jail. And boy, were we wrong.
On the day he was to turn himself in, Richard Merritt was at his mother's house to say goodbye.
She was going to do what I think any loving mother would do and send him off in the best way possible. And she had made him his favorite meal and had made her homemade bolognese sauce.
She loved him unconditionally. And despite everything he did and the people that he hurt, a mother never abandons her children.
Merritt and his mother had initially asked a cousin, Mike Jeffco, to come to the house to drive him to jail.
And you can really see Shirley's emotion and disappointment in those text messages. However, the character of those text messages really changed. Something was not going the way it was supposed to be going. What we know is that around 2:30 that afternoon, he left his mother's house. He left in Shirley Merritt's Lexus with her phone. He drove west on 285 and north on I-75, passing the Cobb County Jail. At 4:12 in the afternoon, he failed to turn himself in. He exited 75 around Cartersville, and the ankle monitor company was alerted at 4:14 that he had severed his monitor and was no longer wearing it. They found that monitor at a truck stop in a garbage can.
An email came through that Mr. Merritt's ankle monitor has been tampered with and it's been cut off. And at that moment, my stomach sank and I knew what may be happening. And I remember texting him saying, Rich, if this is what I think it is, don't do this. Please call me as soon as possible. We can talk through this. Please don't do this. He's obviously running from the law. He's fled.
And when police went to his mother's house, no one seemed to be home.
They found the house was locked up. Nothing looked unusual. Her car was missing, but there was no broken windows, no evidence of a crime.
And no sign of Shirley.
Is Shirley okay? Is Shirley safe?
Tonight, all eyes are on this stadium in Atlanta.
Welcome to the opening ceremonies of the Super Bowl experience.
It was Super Bowl weekend. The Super Bowl was Atlanta that year.
The Super Bowl, what promises to be the safest city in the country.
All those people flocking to our city, that comes a need for heightened security.
The law enforcement resources in Atlanta were almost all devoted to the Super Bowl.
And at first, a disbarred fugitive lawyer did not seem to be a high priority.
The next morning, roughly at 8:38 a.m., they received a phone call from a relative of Miss Shirley. They went in and discovered Miss Shirley lying on the floor near the basement. Crime scene picture was gruesome. They are the worst photos I have ever seen in my 27 years in law enforcement. There was a knife handle that was close by. There was blood on the wall near her head. She was actually laying face down. And once they rolled her, they noticed that the blade that came off of the handle of the knife was embedded in her face. She was stabbed numerous times. And not only that, she was beaten in the head with a dumbbell, 35-pound dumbbell. It was personal. It was very personal to my experience.
The food was on the stove. It appeared that she was about to toss a salad and she had just taken some garlic bread out of the oven. The spaghetti had been made. There were still 2 place settings at the table as if Shirley and Richard were going to eat lunch together that day, but never did.
Before Merritt cut off his ankle bracelet, investigators could see from the GPS tracking that he had made a stop at a roadside gas station.
Detectives immediately pulled the surveillance video and saw Richard driving Shirley's Lexus to a pump at that station.
He gets out like just nonchalant, no care whatsoever, goes inside the store, goes to the restroom, comes back out, grabs some snacks, get 2 bottles of water, comes up to the register. Once again, like no care in the world, just nothing, just everything, just all peaches. It's like it was a regular Saturday morning walking in the ballpark. And then he drives out, go northbound. Richard was nowhere to be found. So 2 and 2 equal 4. So that's when everything started to come together.
The strongest piece of evidence was the fact that we knew that no one else was in that home besides Richard Merritt. This was not a masked assailant or burglar. If someone else killed your beloved mother, why wouldn't you stay behind and help?
But as investigators searched the Stone Mountain neighborhood for clues, they knew they needed to rule out any other possible scenario to develop an airtight case for a jury.
There's always things that can go wrong and will go wrong. Like people say, if it's not on video, it didn't happen. You know, some wanted that perfect DNA, eyewitness. So we didn't have any of those.
What about Merritt's clients who had been cheated? What about the person or persons behind the menacing cartoon flyers that had been circulated? And what about the DNA tests?
While DNA was found on the handle of that dumbbell, there was an insufficient number of cells to replicate to allow us to compare it to Richard Merritt or Shirley Merritt's known DNA. This is not CSI.
But the thing was, the circumstantial evidence was great. The facts were there. It was there.
DeKalb police say they have a warrant for Richard Merritt's arrest. Shirley Merritt was found stabbed to death on Friday in her Stone Mountain home.
Tonight, we are hearing from his brother for the first time.
So, I think there was always a concern that he might flee, given the nature of the crimes that he committed, but no one ever saw this coming.
It's something that'll haunt me for the rest of my life.
I want you to take a look at this photo. Tonight, we are seeing new pictures of the disbarred Georgia attorney who's on the run after allegedly murdering his mother. The U.S. Marshal Service announced today it is now on the search for Richard Merritt. They released this photo to us.
We really had no idea where he went. We suspected he was smarter than the average fugitive and would be able to hide better than a lot of them can.
Merritt was last seen in the gas station surveillance video, driving away and heading north in his mother's Lexus.
We thought that he was trying to trick us, so we thought he might have went up north and then doubled back and went south.
We didn't know if he was in Costa Rica or if he was hiding in the bushes down the street behind the gas station. We just had no idea.
So we thought maybe he was in Florida. We gave him all sorts of ideas where we thought he would be. His in-laws had a beach house, Fort Walton in Destin.
He liked to go to the beach. He liked visioning himself in this boating type of life, hanging out at beach bars and things like that. And we knew he liked to go to Irish pubs in particular.
And Merritt had a distinctive tattoo on his arm.
Some sort of crown and with a shamrock. That Irish drinking tradition and storytelling tradition really appealed to him. He liked to watch sports, and he's a big Georgia Bulldog fan. So I kind of figured, those habits are hard to break, even if you're on the run.
The nationwide manhunt continues for a disbarred attorney wanted for allegedly murdering his own mother. Marshal's office confirmed Merritt's ex-wife is living in a secret location, and nearly 2,000 former clients are living in a state of fear.
We're terrified. We're terrified because of what we know he's capable of.
I think we were all worried if he could do that to my mother, what would he do to me?
I was personally concerned. This line of work can be dangerous. Just kind of kept my gun on my hip and in my vehicle at all times, just thinking that this was the new normal.
U.S. Marshals have released a new photo in their search for a disbarred Cobb County attorney accused of killing his mother. This is the car Richard Merritt was driving. This was last seen February 1st. There is now a $5,000 reward in the case.
We knew that Merritt stole his mother's car, so a large part of the investigation was trying to locate the vehicle. We knew he probably switched tags on it. We were expecting it to turn up, in the woods or something.
He knew how to go off the grid completely. Both his phone and his mother's phone went dark.
After 8 months, you start to wonder if we're ever going to find him and what's going to happen.
This guy cannot be found. Where could he possibly be? This is out of a movie or something. And where the hell is this guy? And then all of a sudden, I'm at my office one day. I get this large manila-sized envelope in my mailbox.
More of the cartoon flyers that had been sent earlier, which his lawyer now came to believe had been created by Merritt himself.
The handwriting was strikingly similar, and my stomach sinks as I'm like, what is this? But what was interesting was the return or the post office stamp on that envelope from a post office near Knoxville, Tennessee.
So now the search began to focus on Tennessee and soon to Nashville, the Music City. Richard Merritt's carefully planned life on the run began to unravel.
The mistake that he made was stealing Shirley's car, and he never got rid of it.
And he kept it parked on the street near Vanderbilt University in Nashville.
A Vanderbilt police officer was just doing some patrol work. Somehow he ran into the Lexus and the door was open. He ran the tag and found that it was a stolen tag. So he ran the VIN and found a bolo. Be on the lookout for this car.
And one of the things we found was there's some kind of flyer or card or something for an Irish pub in Nashville that wasn't too terribly far from where the car was located. We staked out the area of that bar,
and saw Merritt walk right past us and go into a thrift store.
He had a coat like he was trying on, threw it on a rack, and the guy just turned around and kind of looked at my corner of his eye and dropped his water bottle in.
I said, Richard Merritt, and he could see I had my U.S. Marshal vest on. I said, get on the ground, and as he did, he put his arm out, and I saw his tattoo on his arm. So I knew it was him. He grew his hair out longer, and he looked a little differently, and you could just see his heart sinking because he knew it was over at that point.
We begin tonight with a nationwide manhunt that is finally over. Richard Merritt, a disbarred attorney from Cobb County, was arrested this afternoon in Tennessee.
We learned that he had basically started a new life. And they found a driver's license with Richard's photo on it, but with a fake address and a fake name. And the name that he was using was Nick Malvo.
His first appearance was in a national court, facing extradition to Georgia.
Mayor, how are you doing?
Fine, Your Honor.
All right, so you're gonna sign your waivers, go back to Cobb County.
Yes, ma'am.
Over to Georgia.
Merritt's trial back in Georgia would not begin for 4 years, time he used to fashion his defense.
Once he was in jail, he wrote me many letters. He was pulling mom and dad would want us to help each other, stand by each other cards. And then he was like, I didn't do this. I will explain what happened. You just wait. I'm going to explain. And there's a good explanation for it.
It fits with his character as a narcissistic sociopath.
Our focus today is day one of Georgia versus Richard Merritt. He is the disgraced 49-year-old attorney on trial for the 2019 death of his mother.
I think what made this headline worthy is that you don't often see prominent attorneys fall from grace to then commit such a violent act against your mother and now face life without the possibility of parole.
So we are now ready for the state to begin its opening argument.
Now, if Shirley Merritt were alive today, she would have just celebrated her 50th Mother's Day as the defendant's mother. You're going to hear some heartbreaking things. And you're going to see some ugly, brutal photographs. The medical examiner found that she was stabbed 4 times in the back, 1 time in the side. She was stabbed several times in the face, and the force was so strong, ladies and gentlemen, that the blade of that 9-inch knife lodged into the bones of her skull and hands were
The weakness of the case was that this case is entirely circumstantial. We knew that they would be arguing that somebody else came into that house and killed Shirley Merritt.
The investigators arrived on the scene. It was very clear that this had not been a case where an intruder came into the house and killed Shirley Merritt. There were no open or broken windows. All the doors were closed. There was no sign of forced entry or any tampering at all. What's more, you know what Shirley had been doing when she was attacked and killed? She was cooking the defendant his last meal at 27. Investigators found spaghetti and Shirley's famous bolognese sauce, hot and understood, along with a salad that she is about to toss in a loaf of garlic bread that she had just gotten out of the oven.